Everything started when I heard a strange sound. It sounded like the fan above the oven in the kitchen, but it was much higher. And then there was a bright light from the window that almost lit up the whole room. It reminded me of the cold glow that shines from the lamp they have in dental surgeries. And when I tried to get out of my bed, I could not. It felt like I was paralyzed. I just could not move, even how hard I tried. And the whole time it felt like it was someone who was looking at me. It was as if someone was in the room. I tried to turn my head to see what it was. And when I finally succeeded, I saw a little grey being with large black eyes that looked at me. I remembered that I screamed when I saw it, but the creature just looked at me and said that I should not be afraid, or said it was if I heard a voice in my head. I could never see the creature's mouth move. The mouth was on a thin line below the narrow, almost non-existent nose. And after a while I understood, or rather felt, that there were others in the room. So I looked around the room, even though I was too afraid to look. Then I saw 4 more beings, but they were smaller. And they were standing on both sides of my bed. They stretched their little weary hands towards me and lifted me up. But it did not feel like they touched me. It felt more like I was afloat. Then everything went black. Maybe I passed out, I have no idea, but I remember waking up on the cold bench of some kind of metal. And the 4 smaller beings walked around me, and it seems like they were preparing something, but I don't know what. I was absolutely terrified. I can't be here, this can't be true. But suddenly I heard that voice again in my head. It sounded warm and caring in some way, and it felt as if it wanted to comfort me, because it continued to say that I should not be afraid. And for some reason I became calmer. Then one of the smaller beings walked up to me with some kind of silver instrument that it put in my nose. I remember that I screamed and that I tried to get away, but I could not move. The only thing I could move was my eyes. It was almost like you read about, people who are awake during the surgery and cannot tell anyone, but they know and feel everything that happens. I also noticed that they cut me with a knife or something in my leg, then everything just turned black. I did not remember anything until I woke up in my bed when the morning sun shined through the window. How I got there, I have no idea. My nose still hurts, and I noticed that my nose bleed. And when I looked at my leg, I saw a wound where they slashed me with the knife, or whatever it was. And the scar still exists as a memory of that night. So when I see it, I understand that it really happened. Even though I do not want to believe that it is true, I still bleed from my nose now and then, and that I almost never did before. It started after that night. This story was not real, as you all understood, but it resembles many of the cases I've read about through the years, and I assume that you have heard countless stories of people that have been abducted by aliens. An experience such as this must bring a lot of questions and have to be traumatic for those who claim to have gone through it. But before I continue, I just want to say that I understand that most stories like this are probably just invented by people that need the attention. Just want to make that clear before you begin to flood me with comments about how stupid I am to believe in fairy tales like this. Because that is not what I say. what I say is that if the stories are true, what kind of help can we give to someone who has experienced a thing like this? And even if it is a product of the person's mind and not a real event, we have to try to find a reason why the person imagines things like this and do something about that. But if it actually happened, then we have to try to help the person cope with the fact that he or she actually have had the experience, and that the person cannot be sure that it will not happen again. And if it happens again, can they do something about it? Is it even possible at all to protect themselves, and if so, how? The problem is that if we assume that it's not true, we never will be able to help those who actually went through what they say they did. Because if it has happened and no one believes them, how can anyone be able to process the event and move on? And by not believing in a person, he or she will not only feel discomfort and fear because of what happened, but probably also feel lonely and abandoned because they are called liar, perhaps even mentally ill, which the person is not if the story is true. And if the story is true, we have even a bigger problem. What do they want and why are they here? Do we have to protect us against them? And if, can we protect us against them? This was just some thoughts that occurred to me after plowing through a number of UFO books. I have read about UFOs as long as I can remember, and I have thought it was an interesting topic. And the interesting dilemma here is, how do we help people that cope with their memories? Because if the stories are true, we have to help in a completely different way than if it is just in their head. Until the next time, have a skillful life and don't let the aliens take you.